wait a minute. I just changed my mind. Fuck Steezy, bro. Steezy. What's like? You know what the Steez?
Oh, the Steezy stories.
Steezy, Izzy, Steezy stories.
Yeah, that one works.
We did it. What's up, my sleazies and my steezies? This is Steezy,
Dirty Birdo.
And today we're starting a new series called Breaking the Stigma. The first episode we're going to be doing is bipolar disorder, which is what I'm diagnosed with. So we're going to go deep into my mind and do some exploration.
Damn.
So the first thing I wanted to mention was the stigma. So with all mental health, there's always going to be a big stigma of people admitting that they have something. Any type of disorder, people don't like to be labeled. So the biggest issue with people is like, I don't want people to think that I'm crazy, because the word crazy implicates I'm out of this world. You know, like don't take me seriously. I'm not here. People don't value your opinion as much because they're like, oh, he's crazy, so don't listen to him. So the stigma with bipolar disorder is that a lot of times you got movies that are, portraying it in a dark so if you look at horror movies, for example, a lot of times, the main character that is tripping out, he's seeing all kinds of different visions and stuff like that, and they're making them look like they're out of their mind.
Usually the villain.
Yeah, usually they're the villain. Like, for example, movies like Fight Club, you'll see the beginning phases where he's like depressed, he's stuck in his couch, he can't do much, he's just kind of like living this boring, mundane life, and then all of a sudden the manic personality comes out, he blacks out, he sees the other side, and then he loves that adrenaline, that craziness that comes with it. So it shows the dual personalities of a person with bipolar. It does do a pretty decent job of showing the two extremes, but it's also at the same time like it's showing like a person that's completely out of their mind. They're creating these crazy thoughts of destroying the world and all that, and like
it makes it more terrifying.
Exactly, it makes it scarier than it actually is. A lot of times people can be bipolar and you wouldn't even know it.
So when people find out you're bipolar, what are usually their thoughts about it, or their perspective on you when they find out?
Well, it's basically like I'm assuming this is what's going on in their head. They're like, oh, this person's gonna flip out like at any moment. He probably has temper tantrums, mood swings, and he's one way and then he's another way, he's flipping out. But it's not always like that. It's just like any other thing. Like everybody has mood swings. You have your happy days, you have your sad days, you have days when you're super excited, there's other days when you're just really nervous. So you go through the same thing that everybody else goes through, except your highs are much higher, your lows are way lower. So whenever somebody is saying like, oh, I'm going through something really bad, just multiply it times 1,000, and then that's what it feels like to be depressed when you're bipolar.
So what is bipolar, and what are some of the symptoms?
So I'm gonna go off of the list of, if you Google bipolar disorder, it goes through all the different sections. So you got mood, which is you got mood swings, sadness, elevated mood, anger, anxiety, apathy, euphoria, you got hopelessness, loss of interest, or also loss of interest in pleasure or activities. So your mood's just going up and down. Behavioral, you got a lot of irritability, you take a lot of risky behaviors, you have disorganized behavior, so it's kind of like just random all over the place. There's aggression, agitation, impulsivity, hyperactivity, restlessness. And then there's also weight gain. Whenever you're in the depressed mode, you tend to eat a lot, and then you end up sleeping a lot, so you kind of just like you just end up gaining a lot of weight. And then you got on the manic side, you end up not sleeping a lot, you don't eat a lot, you just kind of like you're just burning the candle at both ends, so you end up losing a lot of weight in that state. So you have a big fluctuation in your weight as well.
All right, so when were you diagnosed and what happened?
So I got diagnosed in summer of 2011. when I got diagnosed, I was just kind of going through a lot of emotional issues, a lot of mental issues. I was just a lot of drama going on in my life at the time. And coincidentally, I was also experimenting with a lot of different drugs. I was taking, going to a lot of raves, and I was doing a lot of ecstasy, a lot of psychedelics, a lot of just a lot of stimulants that, if you're diagnosed bipolar, those are triggers for you. And I didn't know that at the time that I was predisposed to bipolar disorder. So when I got diagnosed, I just rejected it at first. I'm like, there's no way, I'm not bipolar, I'm not taking any medication. Then, after I got diagnosed, 2 weeks later, I go right back to the hospital. I ended up going to 3 different hospitals in the span of 4 months. So basically, it was just after recurring hospital visits, I just started noticing the pattern. Like, you know what? If all the doctors and all my friends and all my family, everybody's telling me that I need to take this medication, then that's when I just kind of submitted to it. I said, you know what? Maybe I need to just surrender and just give into this. Made me realize that I had a problem. So, yeah.
You mentioned doing drugs. So is that usually a cause, or if it's not, what are the causes for getting bipolar?
The one thing that I always like to say is think about it like this: like a normal person, when they do drugs and they're not bipolar, they don't have a predisposition to it. If they take drugs, they go through a drug-induced, psychosis, and then they come back out of it. It's like you trip out in your mind, and then you come back to reality. The majority of people are like that. There's plenty of people that did a lot of drugs back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, and they're perfectly fine now. Nothing ever happened to them. But for a person who's bipolar, think about it as like a normal person has like a little tiny canister of gasoline, and this person has and a bipolar person has a semi-truck full of gasoline. The same match, which is drugs, might cause a little fire right here, but for this person, it causes a huge explosion. So it's kind of like, it's not that the drugs caused the bipolar disorder, they just they're triggers, and they're just a match that lights it up.
All right, so what does it feel like being bipolar? What are the ups and downs?
So on paper, you've seen that, all the things how it looks like from the outside. You got the mood swings, the ups and downs and all that. But on the inside, it's the easiest way that I can describe it is when you're up, when you're high, it's the greatest high you will ever experience. Because I've tried, like I said, ecstasy, and like acid. I've tried psychedelics. I've tried intense drugs. I've tried the craziest experiences. And when you're in a state of mania, it feels even better than anything you've ever done before. Better than any drug, better than any experience I've ever had. It was one of those things where it's so addictive that you never want to come off that high. So there's a reason why people who are bipolar tend to ride that high, because it's like you're like, no, I don't want to take medication because I feel amazing. Even though you might be causing damage around you, inside it feels like you're on top of the world. Now the problem is that doesn't last forever. For some people, it might last, 3 months or whatever. Some people might last a week, depending on how fast they cycle. But when you're going through that high, eventually it has to crash down. So it's only a matter of time where your brain just gives out, and then now you're going to go deep into the depression part. The depression part is worse than anything I've ever experienced. I mean, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, because when you're that depressed, it's like, imagine like being in a room full of all the things that you love, everything that you've ever dreamed of, all the money, all the women, all whatever, right? And you're just sitting in that room and you're just like, I don't want to be here. I can't enjoy this. I can't have fun. I'm miserable. And it's like, a lot of times what happens is like people end up getting suicidal thoughts. And that's happened to me before. I've had many situations where, I've had really dark suicidal thoughts. I've come close to, committing suicide. I've had really dark moments. So yes, the highs are amazing, but the lows are just as bad. It's like, as good as this is, it's just as bad down here. So try to think of every emotion that you've ever been through, all the the happiest moments of your life, the worst moments of your life, and then just make them bigger. So that's how I would describe bipolar disorder.
So what are some of the biggest obstacles you have to overcome when diagnosed bipolar?
So like I was saying earlier, is like you're gonna have a lot of irritability, whether you're manic or whether you're depressed. You're gonna want to like either not want to hang out with people, or too much hang out with people, or speaking what's on your mind all the time, and sometimes it gets a little irritating to other people. You're gonna have to overcome those obstacles of like, you might hurt some people, you might push some people away from you. You're gonna find out who's really your true friend at the end of the day, because they're gonna put up with a lot of stuff that they shouldn't put up with because they care about you and they love you. So that's one obstacle you're gonna have to get over. And then just reckless behavior. It's just like when you're manic, you tend to overspend. You end up buying things that you don't need, and you're giving away all your things. You're just at the drop of a hat, you're just someone calls you, hey, let's go do this, boom, let's go do that, and you just let go of all your appointments. And it's a really reckless behavior. So it could cost you your job, it could even cost you your life. Like a lot of people commit suicide because they can't handle all that pressure that's going on inside of them, and it's just overwhelming. So yeah, that's what I would say about the obstacles that you have to overcome.
So what are some examples of famous people who are diagnosed bipolar and who obviously overcame most of these obstacles?
Well, really famous one, if you guys know Princess Leia from Star Wars, Carrie Fisher, she was bipolar. So she did a lot in her life. She's really famous. She accomplished a lot of things. You got Ernest Hemingway, which he one of the greatest writers of all time. Robert Downey Jr., he did Iron Man. You got Jimi Hendrix, one of the greatest guitarists of all time. You got Mel Gibson, great director and actor. Frank Sinatra, Mariah Carey, Russell Brand, Kurt Cobain, which he actually wrote a song called Lithium, because it was about his whole what he was going through at the time. And then one of the most famous icons that we know today, like Kanye West, he openly talks about bipolar disorder, which is pretty inspiring for me, because I know a lot of people like to criticize on Kanye because of all the crazy things that he goes through, but me personally, since I've actually experienced what he goes through, I know what it feels like. And it's one thing that I would like to compare it to is, like, I didn't talk about this earlier, but it's literally like you're sitting in the back seat of a car, right? And it's like a Tesla. It's driving itself, but there's a malfunction in the fucking hardware and shit, and the software, and all of a sudden it's just driving insane mode everywhere you go, and you're just like holding onto the seat. It's exhilarating, it's amazing, but at the same time it's scary as hell, and you're freaking out and you don't know what to do. You can't jump out of the car, you'll die. You can't jump into the controls and control it. There's nothing you could do but just sit back and just watch the show.
So what's the treatment for bipolar disorder?
So it's basically go get a psychiatrist, find the right medication for you, because for some people they don't react well to lithium because it's actually toxic for your blood. So you have to get routine medical checks. You have to go get blood work done, find out how much lithium is in your system. So the main thing that I would like to say is try to find a good psychiatrist, someone who's not just trying to drug you up, like someone who actually cares about, like, you let them know what's going on with your body, and then they give you the right medication. And then once you got the right medication and you're stable for the most part, to get rid of all the depressing thoughts, I would say sign up for therapy. Get yourself a good therapist. You might not get a good first therapist. The first one might be someone who doesn't know you, someone who doesn't understand what you're going through. Move on to the next one, and just keep going until you find the right therapist for you. For some people, it's not about the therapist. Maybe they just weren't ready for therapy. But overall, I say get a therapist, get some medication, and then just all the basic things to stay healthy. Work out, take vitamins, get some sunlight, go for hikes, go for walks. Just be a little bit more active in life, and just try to keep a healthy mind state. So yeah, that's what I would say for as far as treatment goes. Don't let mental health dissuade you from doing all the things that you want to do. Like I talked about earlier, you got all these different famous people who overcame those obstacles and said, you know what, I'm not gonna let this hurdle stop me from getting to the goal, right? So if you got anxiety, if you got depression, if you got any other mental health disorder, like whatever's going on with your life, just realize that it's not the end. There's plenty of musical artists out there that if you're trying to be if you're trying to be a rapper, you're trying to be a singer, you're trying to be a musician, if you want to be a movie director, if you want to be an actor, like all those there's a mental disorder in every single aspect of that industry, of the entertainment industry. Doesn't matter whether you're this or that. At the end of the day, your disorder shouldn't define you. You shouldn't let it stigmatize you. And I'm not saying be proud and go around saying, hey guys, look at me, like I'm this. Like, what I'm trying to say is just understand it and don't be afraid of it. Learn more about it so that you can dispel the fears from other people. Once you know more about your own disorder, you can explain it better to other people so that they're not so freaked out. They can explain it to their family members so they're not so freaked out. Eventually, it just progresses like that. So, yeah, so hopefully we can break the stigma of bipolar disorder and every other, you know, any other disease or sickness that's out there that people are going through. You know, like, let's break the stigma. You know, it's like let's stop judging each other for the same old bullshit. You know.
Thank y'all for listening.
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and appreciate y'all. Peace.